I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic
The
for which
republic for which it
it stands,
stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
So, anything you'd like to add to the agenda today, Junior?
Nope, I'm good.
Okay. So the one business item is FY 2024 budget transfer of appropriations. Kevin.
Good morning, Kevin Ince, Finance Director. So as we're moving towards going through our year-end activities and doing final budget review. We did the pretty large supplemental budget at the last Board of Commissioners meeting. And when we prepare those, they're prepared weeks in advance. And there's a number of things that can change as postings occur towards the end of the year. And also there was a couple of transfers of appropriations that were overlooked. So I can walk through them generally speaking, and then if you have any specific questions on the details, I'd be happy to answer those. Primarily, the transfers of appropriations are primarily related to allocations of the insurance. I'm sorry, give me just 1 second here. Looking at my resolution. Okay, sorry about that. There were a few transfers related to allocations of insurance, if you recall, when we were doing the budget. When we originally budgeted, all of our insurance expenditures were budgeted in the non-departmental and the general fund, and we've allocated those out to departments for better cost allocation and transparency for the cost of our programs. There was a few changes in the specific large change in the Board of Commissioners, the transfer of appropriations for that department in the general fund that was related to the payment to the broadband consortium. Recall that wasn't included in the original budget. The payment was made early on this year, and that was an item that was overlooked in the supplemental. So that's a transfer of appropriations from contingency to Department 101 in the general fund. Classifications, expenditures. We had some items in our capital improvement fund that were related to the circuit court project. Originally, all those were budgeted as capital outlay. There's some items, invoices that had come in through the year that upon review, they don't meet the classification to be categorized under capital outlay because we won't ultimately be capitalizing those particular costs. And so those are recorded as materials and services. So there's just a transfer between those two categories. And same sort of situation in Fund 231, which is basically a clearing fund for justice court. As fines and fees are accumulated in there, they're distributed from there to the various county departments and some state agencies. And again, most of those were categorized as special payments in the budget, but there was a couple items that were recategorized to materials and services. So it's just a transfer of appropriations between those two categories. Probably the biggest changes are related to the SIP funds. As you know, we have currently in the fiscal 24 budget, we have individual funds for each of the SIP agreements that the county has. And those revenues are an estimate that we get from the assessor's office at the beginning of the year. And for the most part, if there's increased or above estimated revenues that come in, all those go right back out to the various special districts based on the distribution agreements, and some of those go to various county departments. So when we have extra revenues come in that weren't included in the original estimates, those get distributed, and because they're governmental funds, we have to record them as such. And so you can see in funds 501, 521, 501 is the Shepherd's Flat SIP, 521 is PGE Cardi, and 523 is Wheat Ridge Wind. Those all have increases of appropriations, but those increases are offset by increases in resources because revenues were higher than anticipated. The other item that affects those SIPs is the gain share amount. That's a payment that we received back from the state related to those SIP agreements. We don't really have a good understanding or idea of what those gain share payments are going to be until they actually occur. So again, in those funds, we just received additional revenues and passed those through based on the distributions that are outlined in the distribution agreements. And this transfer of this increase of appropriations is solely to cover that. We don't need to do a supplemental budget where there's additional unforeseen revenues or resources that come in that is dedicated to a specific use or purpose. In this case, through those distribution agreements, we're allowed to do that supplemental budget adjustment via resolution.
I have a quick question, Kevin.
Mm-hmm.
So, like on the PG Cardi, it's at 6%. Does that count towards our 15% allocation adjustment, or because it's money coming in, it still counts towards the 15%?
So the numbers that I calculated there, that's the total percentage change of appropriations from the original budget. So that considers all of any adjustments that have occurred thus far year to date, plus the proposed adjustment. And so that's 6% total. And I put those on there just to show that we're still below the 15%.
Okay, understood. That's kind of what I want to know. Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, so I guess this is actually a public hearing, correct, Kevin?
No.
So we don't have
No.
to, not that I see any public anywhere anyway, we don't have to take public comment.
No, this is simply a transfer of appropriations through a resolution. So we don't have to do a public hearing for this one.
Okay. So then it's up to a motion to approve the resolution.
I'll make a motion to adopt resolution R 2024-14, adjusting fiscal year 2024 budget and appropriations as detailed herein.
And I will second that motion. Any other discussion? Seeing none, we'll vote. Aye.
Aye.
The motion carries unanimously. So I believe that's it for today's meeting. That's all that's on the agenda. And Valerie, I guess since you need our signatures, authorize you to use my electronic signature.
As do I.
Thank you. I was going to ask.
And there's nothing else for us today? Seeing nothing else, we're adjourned. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, guys. Have a good weekend.
You did.
Thank you.